Oh, yeah. Come on, everybody. It's Z Show. It's our own little special place where we can come explore our collective imagination, climb aboard. Mr. Mad Mac letting us know that he watched the new Willy Wonka movie and that the songs are pretty good. Interestingly enough, I also watched the new Willy Wonka movie. Strictly for research purposes only, of course. Uh, it was definitely interesting. There was a lot of weird stuff regarding the new Willy Wonka movie. There's weird stuff, like occult ritualistic references, Jesuit-like references. If anybody who's watched it, you could probably relate. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but there were some parts that were very, very, very strange, very telling. You know what they say? Truth in the movies, lies in the news. Seems to be pretty standard amongst this pop culture. But howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Z Show. It's been quite a jam-packed week already here. We've had a bunch of interesting and compelling guests, surprise guests. And now we're here on Friday. Usually there's a different vibe on the Friday show. Usually it's a bit more active, a bit more cuckoo, a bit more silly. Not because of my doing. To me, Friday is just another day. It's just a day. But for a lot of people, it's the day they kind of kick their feet up, let their hair down, and usually imbibe in their favorite libation, their favorite adult drink, which is fine. Hey, everybody, pick your poison. Like I always say, nobody here gets out alive anyway. Yeah, cuckoo. Cuckoo ka-choo. Things get cuckoo. Like, who knows? Like, it's Friday. Who knows what Heidi's up to? Sometimes I try to imagine how Heidi spends her Friday nights. Like, what that involves. Is it a bubble bath, Heidi? What is it? What's your guilty pleasure? We'd like to know. The Z world needs to know. Ruled by Saturn just says that you're probably just chilling on Friday night. But here's the thing, Ruled by Saturn. How does that differ from like Heidi's normal routine? It just seems like one big chill session. Oh, okay. She basically takes an extra long shower. Wow, Heidi. Really cutting loose there. Don McRon says, I would remote view, Z, but I'm a gentleman. Well, Don McRon, if you do indeed possess the powers of remote viewing, first off, you're going to have to contend with our good friend Harmon, because Harmon thinks remote viewing is pretty much bullshit. But if indeed you do have the powers of astral travel and remote viewing. Why not go check out Heidi? Maybe even go check out this Tracy here. Or even this Kimmy. This Kimmy's Playhouse. Here she is. This Kimmy's Playhouse has her own channel. Let me go check out Kimmy's Playhouse. I'm clicking on your channel, Kimmy. Let me see what you're doing here. All right, you have a bunch of shorts. Let me play one of your shorts, random one. Oh, she's a ginger. Kimmy, did anybody ever tell you you look like the actress whose name's not coming to mind right now? What's her name? I don't know. Emma something. Emma Stone. Something Stone. I think it's Emma Stone. I might have made that up. I'm going to have to subscribe to Kimmy's channel just to give her a shout out and maybe check her stuff out later. Much love, Kimmy. Queen of Swords just says Harmon is a closed-minded cop. That sums it up pretty well. I can't fault you, Queen of Swords, for minimizing Harmon, because that's what he seems to do to everybody and everything anyway. Harmon likes things simple in his world. Harmon doesn't like when like things get too complex. He doesn't like to have to hold too many things in his mind. Oh, here's Kimmy. What, Kimmy? You don't want me to play your channel? I was just looking at it in the background. Did you hear what I said about you looking like the I forget her name. I called her Emma Stone or Emily Stone, but it's something like that. Maybe somebody will get it. It was the chick that was in the La La Land movie with with what's his name? Why can't I think of her name? Anyway, you look like her. You look like the La La Land chick. Is she shy, Marky Rizzo? Yeah, somebody will like remember her name. I think it's Emma Stone. I don't know. What do I know? But yeah, you look like her. Let me check out another one of your shorts here.
Of a feather flock together. You attract what you put out or what you are, you know. Which is really why I'm.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up. We're gonna watch your channel, Kimmy. Let's go check out Kimmy's channel. Don't be embarrassed. You have a YouTube channel for a reason, Kimmy. You don't have to be shy about it. We're all here for our 15 minutes of fame. Remember, I think it was the famous Andy Warhol quote that everybody will have 15 minutes. So we're all reaching for that elusive thing that many of us crave deep down inside. The feeling of belonging, the feeling of being loved and adored. Unfortunately, if you think you're going to find that here on YouTube, you might want to look elsewhere. Where are you, Kimmy? Subscribe to your channel, but Kimmy's Playhouse. Interesting name with the Kimmy's Playhouse thing. Oh, you have like lives and stuff, videos. This one's just called Blah from 6 months ago. You have a bunch of shorts here too. Yeah, let's embarrass Kimmy. Let's play her shorts. Not that short. Okay. You look like you have some newer ones, so we're going to pull your newer shorts up. This is Kimmy, everybody. Oh, poems. Poem part 1. Let's check it out. Let's hear Kimmy do a poem. This is going to be sweet.
Her sourdough cookies to eat. Can't find a bathroom? That's no big deal. Just take a bag dump, keeping it real. Kevin is humble, spreading love all around. He brought us together, the lost to the found. His live streams are lit, but don't find it alarming. 3 hours to respond to a comment is charming. Marky is funny, entertaining, and bold, but deep inside he has a heart of gold. If you mention the moon landing, you must beware. He'll trounce your ideas if you come ill-prepared. Megan is thoughtful, expressive, and kind, putting others first and easing their mind. Coffee, poutine, Canadian treasures. Talk crap on Tim Hortons, she'll loathe you forever. Rachel is beautiful, crafty, and
All right, Kimmy, much love. Much love. That's Kimmy, everybody. This is her right here. Kimmy's Playhouse. Who's Marky? Marky Rizzo? Are you referencing our Z Show friend, Mr. Marky Rizzo? Interesting. Much love. Let's see what else you have going here, Kimmy. I love getting to meet the members of the Z Show, especially the lady members. I mean, of course, I have no ulterior motives here.
birds of a feather flock together. You attract what you put out or what you are, you know?
Oops, I lost it.
10, 9,
9,
8,
8,
7,
7,
6,
6,
5, 4,
4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
1.
Happy New
Happy New
Year!
Year.
Dude, you were a second behind me.
Kimmy, please don't tell me that's how you
Yay.
spent your New
My
Year.
bad.
All right, go kiss
You're
your wife.
back.
This is how you spent your New Year, Kimmy. I thought my New Year's was sad and lonely, but you have me beat, Kimmy. You just spent the New Year's with somebody named Shlomo, who's apparently married to somebody who's not you. I don't know how to react to this. I don't know if I need to feel sad or good that somebody else had a worse New Year's than I did. Oh my God. She said, yeah, it's how I spent my New Year's. Too bad, Kimmy. Maybe if we lived close, I don't know where you live, but maybe we could have been alone together on New Year's. Maybe we could have pulled that off. I've always had a thing for redheads.
This quote is by Demi Lovato. One of the hardest things.
Sorry.
Oh, she's cute, everybody. See, I shouldn't have shown this because I could have kept you as my little secret, Kimmy. Now I've exposed you to all the perverts and incels that come to my channel. Bad move on my part. Yeah, she's cute, guys.
This quote is by Demi Lovato. One of the hardest things.
Sorry.
This quote is by.
All right. A new friend Kimmy.
Ready? Tara is why.
Let me drop the link to your channel. Go give her a sub. I'm trying to basically audition for the new Christy Lee Doll's role of the Z Show. Because we know that we'll no longer have Christy Lee Dolls here. I need somebody to play play her part. All right. Link to Kimmy's channel in the chat. Nice. Mad Mac lost his virginity to a redhead. God, that's going to be hard to recover from, Mad Mac. Redheads are really, really interesting, kind of tough to deal with, but sometimes they could be quite a lot of fun. She has Bible study now. Guys, she goes to Bible study. She's a good girl. Yeah, they all say they're good girls. Much love. Have fun at Bible study, everybody. Graffiti Tattoo says we've crossed the line into creepy. Hey, she's on YouTube. She's available for anybody. Like I said, part of me regrets because I could have kept her like my little secret, my little Kimmy secret, but now she's out. 12 incels of the Z Show just subscribed. I'm not calling you guys incels. Well, I guess I am calling you incels. That's all right. At this rate, much of these like relationships are looking pretty rocky out there, guys. Hey, ladies, look, don't blame men that like nobody wants to get married anymore and like guys aren't looking to settle down. It's not our fault. Romance died and women killed it. Plain and simple. So don't look at us. You basically made dating you prohibitive at this point. It's too much. It's too dangerous. It's too hazardous. So we need to swing the tide back to sanity. Look, Mark the Spark agrees. He just said so true. It is. It's not worth it. The older guys know. And the ones that are honest will tell you about it. Yeah, I know Kimmy's been here before, Heidi. Keep up. I know that. But I'm just paying attention to her now. That's all. It's plain and simple. Mad Mac just says girls have ruined me. We heard your story, Mad Mac. We heard it. I think I have the Mad Mac segment. I think I released a video with you, Mad Mac. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Tracy says that Kimmy inspired her to work on being more open. There you go. Did she inspire you to go to Bible study too? Kimmy, you don't look like the Bible study type. Kimmy. Tracy, you don't look like the Bible study type. Well, neither does Kimmy, really, but apparently she's all about it, so who knows? Look, now Rose subbed to her. Rose is going to be instantly friends with her. Within 2 days, Rose is going to know everything about you, Kimmy. This is what Rose does. She's omnipresent and omnipotent. She appears to like never sleep, which is one of her superhuman abilities, besides a photographic memory. Rose, are you sure you're not like some Terminator like being? Like a cybernetic android just sent here to collect data on like all the crazy people here of the metaverse? I'm starting to think so. Yeah, Rose. Rose is basically thinking she's admitting she's a replicant. Yeah. Cool channel name says, is this ladies' night? It's always ladies' night here on Z Show. You guys are always welcome here. Unless I ban you, then you're not welcome. But you're not banned yet. A cool channel name. Not yet, at least. But everybody who comes here is like on probation. Like if you're a new name for me, you're automatically on probation in my book. And then we see where it goes. Much love, y'all. All right, let's get the show started. This is enough meandering around with the intro. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Wonderful Friday night. Cool channel name says, I've been waiting to discuss what is generally known as law. Well, links in the chat. Let's come up and talk about the law. Cool channel name. That's what we do here in Z Show. We chop it up about really anything interesting. Well, anything that I'm interested in. So if I find it interesting, we'll talk about it. And in the meantime, let me pull my music. Let me get back to my channel. Who knows? If I keep doing this long enough, maybe Kimmy will be at a Bible study and back to the show. She really won't have missed much, which is kind of cool. Yeah, but if you want to come up and talk about the law, let's talk about the law. I'm into it. But I'll have to check with certain people because, you know, there's certain people in the legal lawful community that I guess they're the only ones that could talk about it. You know, they've cornered the market on such a huge topic. And I'm sure if I even bring up anything lawful, I'll be stealing from people's material because that's the way it goes around here. All right. Where's my music? If you guys missed it, we had a visit from our friend Mr. Nachiketa yesterday. It was nice talking to Mr. Notch. He's usually sound asleep during my show because he pretty much lives in India. So that was fun, Rose, talking to Notch. Rose, someday you're going to have to let me know how you met Notch. I want to find out. I want the story of the Rose Nachiketa meeting. All right, let's get this show on the proverbial road. Hey, everybody. Greetings. Let's do it. Let's jump right into it. Official opening now. Good evening, everybody. Greetings and salutations. You found your way to Z Show. That's right. It is the end of the rainbow, the bottom of the rabbit hole. And as always, we are broadcasting live and in living color around the level horizontal topographical plane called Earth. That's right, everybody. Much love. We are in for a wonderful Friday night. Again, smoke them if you got them. Enjoy your favorite adult beverage. Hey, it's a free country. It's a free internet. At least it's supposed to be. I don't know. They keep telling me it's free. Doesn't feel very free. Actually feels quite the opposite. But who knows? We're going to still come here. We're going to still speak our minds. We're going to say what we think. And we're going to stand on what we know is right. Much love, everybody. Glad you could be here. Who's here? Who's here? Rose 777 5.0 in the house. She said, 2019, I discovered Nachiketa, and I knew I wanted to be best friends with him. Nice. And I met him from his interview with Mr. Brian Stavely. Well, now I know. Now I know. Divine Spirit, or Divine Spark 313, Heidi in the house. Queen of Swords. Much love. Much love. Don McRon coming at you. Cool channel name in the house. Says it's currently 85 degrees in Tampa. That sounds pretty nice. I can go for some of that. Mark the Spark. Good to see you again. Don't judge me. Another FL lady, Florida contingency. Mr. Three Fingers coming at us says, just got back from public. Trying to disprove simulation is getting harder. You don't get me started, Three Fingers. I'm trying to be positive about people, the way things are now. You know, I don't want to be a doom and gloomer type of person. So I'm trying to keep good intentions, positive regards, and loving vibrations towards people. But you're right, Three Fingers, it's difficult. I don't know what's going on with humanity. It's just like a bunch of drones, and they're reproducing, raising like more drones, and it's getting out of hand out there. And I'm with you, my man. Much love. Man Mac in the house. Good to see you. Tracy, much love. Mr. Graffiti Tattoo coming at you. And of course, Kimmy's Playhouse, who we just met. Mr. Solver Mist. And so many more wonderful people. All right, guys and dolls. As always, we have a banger ahead of us. You never know who we're going to meet on Z Show. You never know who's going to pop in. But like I always like to say, a stranger is just a friend you have not met yet. So you never know. But in the meantime, we have plenty of truthiness in store for us. And we're keeping the vibes high. Always, always, always. Yesterday, we celebrated the birthday of one Nathan Sanders. Somebody told me Heidi's birthday is sometime around here, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe she'll let us know. I'm not exactly sure. But either way, much love, Heidi. And so on and so forth. All right, guys. With that, let's listen to a little bit of music. And I'll be back in a few moments with more Z Show. Either way, take it away, Mr. Lucky Haskins. Sing for the folks of the metaverse as only you can, good sir, my man. Don't go anywhere.
There's been some things that I wanted to say a long time. Yet never a day passed by without you on my mind. Yeah, I tried a lot of things, but I need to try something new. 'Cause I don't have any more love songs to try on you. Hey, we can't ever get it together, it seems. And your arms won't hold me the way they do in my dreams. Yeah, I wrote a lot of songs, but I need to write one that's new. 'Cause I don't have any more love songs to write for you. Oh, I don't have any more love songs to write for you. Yeah, too many I wrote before, they never came true. Yeah, well, I've tried a lot of songs, but I need to write something new. 'Cause I don't have any more love songs to write for you. I said I wrote a lot of songs, but I need to write something new. 'Cause I don't have any more love songs right for you. Yeah, I don't have any more love songs to write for you.
Thank you, Mr. Haskins. As always, good sir. Much love. Go give Lucky Haskins a sub. It's easy to find him. Lucky Haskins on YouTube. But I know he talks a lot about that flat earth stuff. You know, I have some people here, they go, "Oh, Z, I like your show, Z, but I don't know about all that flat earth stuff." And in my head, I'm like, don't you get it? Don't you get it? I have people that have been coming to my show for like a year and they just don't get it. And I'm looking at certain people. And you know, if it's you, I mean, you don't have to believe every little thing I believe. I get that. That'd be nuts for me to think that, but I have people that have been waiting for a year for me to like stop talking about flat earth. Remember that Sean Piniel Power came over and he's like, "Oh, I think Z just talks about flat earth for subs." Sean, not too good in the thinking department, my young friend. You can work on it, man. Maybe you'll snap out of it one day. Yeah, I'm riding the flat earth train for subs and shekels. Right. I'm basically promoting a topic that is completely shadow banned, suppressed, and censored. And trying to show a bunch of people who are, you know, basically are completely disassociated from society, as the flat earth community is. They're not really rolling in shekels, everybody. It doesn't really work like that when you're a flat earther. So, yeah, Emilios, man. Exactly. How dare he? Yeah, Sean's impressionable. He is. There's a lot of young men that are impressionable. But anyway, much love, everybody. All right, let's get into some stuff. I got some cool stuff for tonight. Because, you know, I don't just come on here and like just have a bunch of people screaming at each other for like hours on end. I mean, there'll be a point where it's like a bunch of people screaming at each other, but that just can't be the whole thing. We need ebbs and flows, ups and downs. You have to have that in a show. You need the full experience. It's like a meal. You know, you have different courses, but they're complementary, but they're not all the same. And you have to balance out the palate with different flavors and different flavor profiles. You know, you have to do it in a proper way. You wouldn't just sit down and like eat a big sugary piece of cake. But you do that at the end of the meal. You serve the dessert at the end. It's a delicate balance. It's an alchemy. So let me see what I have on tap tonight. Get into some stuff. Yeah, here we go. All right, so yeah, let me pull this one. So a lot of people like to talk about UFOs, UAPs, I think they're calling them now, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Strange things that are in the sky. And a lot of people will chalk these strange aerial vehicles or objects. They'll chalk them up to like, you know, advanced military technology or some other thing, or aliens from billions of miles away. There's a lot of ways to look at it. But either way you slice it, one thing seems to be true is that this UFO phenomenon and this aerial phenomenon, these unidentified aerial vehicles, This is not a new thing in the course of humanity. And actually, when one goes through history, we find that mankind has been not only viewing, but documenting these UFOs for thousands of years. And I want to get into that tonight because one of my favorite channels, Mr. Static in the Attic, released a video regarding this. And I thought this would be interesting to talk about here on Z Show. So let's get into it. This video is entitled Sky Battles. Sky battles are documented from every era. So he even goes on to this idea that you see some of these UFOs in like these Renaissance type paintings and art. And oftentimes they're very associated with
underground,
with religious imagery, religious stories. So whatever these vehicles are, these objects, we could debate, we can argue, we can conjecture, we could imagine. But one thing seems clear. They seem to be real. And this isn't a recent thing. Let's get into it.
What's up, everybody? There are too many reports from all different time frames where people report a battle in the sky or flying ships. One of the flying ships' anchor actually got stuck in the church. But we have these reports going from, ancient Roman times all the way up to the Battle of Los Angeles in 1942. This is only a month or two after Pearl Harbor, where they just started unloading on something up in the sky. But these people knew what airplanes were. And especially at that time, I mean, the loud engines on them, if they're strafing you, there's no mistaking an airplane, but they don't think that's what it was. But this was at least at a time where witnesses knew we had flying man-made objects. But the older ones, anybody who says they saw this happen is either going to be called a liar or insane. Yet we have multiple accounts of these strange phenomena.
This one he's showing a picture where it's a bunch of people looking in the sky and there's like ships in the sky. Like they're actually represented as like sailing vessels. I've never seen this one. This is interesting.
Happening. So there's something going on here, but I don't know what it is. Are we talking little green men from outer space or people that live underground or under the Antarctic ice for the last couple thousand years? And, any civilization of the past that has made it to the technological stage we have could go underground and be self-sustaining indefinitely. Right now, should we decide to, we could haul enough organic matter down into underground chambers, set up grow lights, have livestock, the whole nine, and probably even keep the temperature at a nice 74 degrees all year round. There are old Tibetan legends of people tens of thousands of years ago that did that very thing and supposedly ruled the world from down there. The king of the world lives in Agartha.
Yeah, again, he's referencing these Tibetan stories of the inner earth. And it goes beyond Tibet. There's a lot of stories about this inner earth. Agartha is a popular name for it, in that at some point, whatever beings inhabited this world retreated under the ground for some reason, which is so strange. To think that there may be these entities underground, potentially in Antarctica somewhere, submerged with an entire civilization. I often think that, it's not just like underground as we would think, like on a globe where you bury in, that there possibly is another dimension of reality tiered below us. It's just a different way to think of this world. The same way that the sky seems to be a different tier of consciousness, of energy. We may be just looking at various frequencies of energy related to different dimensions, and that you may see an actual physical ascension into the sky as things increase in energy. You see this tiering system. Go the same thing for below. If you had these underworlds.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. Now, what's up with all this weird stuff, like two people in objects in the background of the crucifixion? Now, the one on the left, you could kind of say that it's like the soul inside of a shooting star, comet, whatever. But the right one is someone sitting inside of a weird Sputnik thing looking back. There's quite a bit of weird.
Needles, essential for sewing bear.
Old religious art. But let's go through some of these written accounts and then we can look at that. In this book from 1749 that I've done videos on, where it's just lists of strange phenomena and earthquake and cities getting annihilated. They say in the second year of Titus, which would be around the time of the destruction of Jerusalem, so they'd say 79 AD, happened a most extraordinary conflagration of Vesuvius. So Vesuvius started erupting. Great companies of men of unusual size, like giants, were seen walking and conversing night and day on the mountain. In the adjacent country and neighboring cities, they fought sometimes in the air. The noise of their trumpets was heard. The sea roared, and the sky echoed back its terrible sound. A noise as though mountains fell down together. Then suddenly came a great earthquake, a noise underground like thunder. Prodigious rocks were thrown out. The smoke darkened the sun by day, so that it was as night. And by night, the mountain was covered with flame. The ashes covered earth and sea and filled the air. They reached Africa, Syria, Egypt, and Rome, where the next year they caused the plague. So Vesuvius erupting, giant rocks being thrown out, the ashes turning the night to day to night. That all makes sense, but what's going on with the great companies of men of unusual size like giants? A company of men, you would expect at least 100, right? And they
Again, another story about giants. One thing that we're finding as we explore this history from all around the world, various time periods and different cultures, is this continuing narrative of giants from all different ages. And many of it was giants along with humans coexisting as we know it. Not even in some bygone era. I mean, the Bible talks about the giants in the pre-flood days, but it even says, and they existed even after. Were they some progenitor human race, some humanoid race? Are we the remnants of the giants for whatever reason? This goes along with my emerging understanding of mankind and humanity as something much more than we were led to understand, something much more diverse, much more mystical. This idea that our genetics may be expressed in ways that we may not understand. There's a term called epigenetics, and it's this idea that the expression of one's genetic qualities is actually very strongly influenced by one's environment. Yeah, this could be demonstrated when you look at stem cells and how they function. Basically, an embryonic stem cell has the potential to become any other cell and develop into any tissue or organ or system that may comprise that particular organism. But it all starts from a stem cell, which shows me something about how genetics function and how genetic characteristics are expressed to a physical form. It makes me think about humanity. You know, they say much of our DNA, they call it junk DNA. It's supposed to be most of our DNA is apparently junk. Well, what if it's not junk? What if it's simply dormant, unexpressed given the current epoch or energetic or spiritual age that we live in? Is it possible that our very DNA carries the blueprint for all of life, or at least multiple expressions of what we can call humans or proto-humans even? It's a fascinating concept, and one that I'm working on embracing more and more, because again, we're all limited by our preconceptions and our belief systems. These things are hard to break because they're entrenched. We were educated, even more so, we were conditioned, propagandized from our very moment of birth here on Earth. So I think it's important to work to break these calcified, hardened concepts and belief sets that we hold as we work on becoming more understanding, more open, more compassionate.
And they fought sometimes in the air. I don't know, were these like the angels that showed up for Sodom and Gomorrah? This is a famous eruption that they're talking about. It buried Pompeii and Herculaneum. They've redone the roofs here, but there's this whole city buried under a modern city there. You can kind of see the bluff over in the corner. It's like 60, 70 feet of solid rock, ash that fell from the sky and has turned into solid stone. So I don't know, is this apocalypse tourism? These advanced beings just say, they're all going to die in this area anyway, so we can just go ahead and show ourselves. Another famous event happened in 1561 Nuremberg in a, quote, battle that lasted for over an hour. And eventually a large black triangular object appeared, and then a large crash was heard outside of the city.
Think about this, 1561 Nuremberg. This was witnessed by many, many people. This battle in the sky, depicted here in this picture with some religious undertones or overtones.
We actually have eyewitness accounts of this, which we should. This is 70 years after Columbus. In the morning of April 14th, 1561 at daybreak, a dreadful apparition occurred on the sun. This was seen in the city of Nuremberg before the gates and in the country by many men and women. At first, there appeared in the middle of the sun two blood-red semicircular arcs, just like the moon in its last quarter. And in the sun, above and below, and on both sides, the color was blood. There stood a round ball of partly dull, partly black ferrous color. Likewise, there stood on both sides, and as a torus about the sun, such blood-red ones and other balls in large number, about 3 in a line and 4 in a square, then also some alone. These all started to fight among themselves, so that the globes which were first in the sun flew out to the ones standing on both sides. The globes flew back and forth among themselves and fought vehemently with each other for over an hour, and when the conflict in and again out of the sun was most intense, they became fatigued to such an extent that they all fell from the sun down upon the earth, as if they all burned. Then they wasted away on earth with immense smoke. After all this, there was something like a black spear, very long and thick. The shaft pointed to the east, the point pointed west. Whatever such signs mean, God alone knows, although we have seen many kinds of signs on the heavens. There was the airship of Clonmacnoise, Ireland, supposedly 8th century, and they say there was a ship flying by and it's got its anchor stuck on something in the front yard or something.
File with it.
and that a man type figure had climbed down to free it, and the villagers, seized the guy, and the priest came out and told them, let him go because you're going to kill him. Just like us being underwater, they talked like the guy was going to drown being in our atmosphere. But that one's just, I don't know, something off about it for a couple of reasons. One, what good does a UFO have with an anchor? And the guy being about to drown, just it goes too far with the ship analogy thing. But I'm sure there's something there that inspired the original story. The Renaissance painters painted some pretty crazy stuff. And, if you think about,
Again, with the Renaissance painters, so many depictions of these crafts, these aircrafts appear to be advanced technology interacting with people, especially, again, in the religious context. These religious depictions through this Renaissance art, you see numerous instances of these aircrafts being pictured.
about all of that in context, this is a time when the church ruled with an iron fist after the catastrophes of the 14th century basically wiped out 2/3 of Europe. People like the Medicis and the Church of Rome were literally hiring artists to paint and remake history in their image. The Renaissance means rebirth. A lot of the artists were, avant-garde secret society members, Rosicrucians, and kind of seemed to know a little more than the average cat.
So again, he brought up the church's role, basically in the 14 and 1500s, the so-called Renaissance period, after the Black Plague, which apparently, as he said, killed 2/3 of Europe. Let's think about what that situation would be like. Somebody in the chat was writing about mud floods and resets. Well, are we looking at a reset event here, depicted in the mid-1300s with the Black Plague? Modern academia and popular sentiment is that it was, like a plague, like, microorganisms, like virus or bacteria, most likely a virus. And they present it as that, like from that lens, but maybe it was something more. Additionally, we're told of a similar type of worldwide cataclysmic event in 536 AD, I believe is the year. Was that another reset? Some people think they're actually one and the same, that the Black Death, the plague, actually took place in 536. And that an extra 800 or so years has been added to our timeline. So these things are fascinating, which would basically wipe out the entire Dark Ages. Which to me is plausible, because this idea that there was an 800-year Dark Age period doesn't add up. Frankly, a lot of history doesn't add up, really. Look no further than the idea of the mid-1800s, the vast Gothic architecture that existed amongst these cities that appear to be very vacant, almost unpopulated in a way. So either way, we have a history that appears to be quite different than the one that's presented. And associated with these, we see these cataclysmic events. And again, we have these multiple depictions of these battles in the sky. These beings, these crafts that appear to have been associated with humanity for all of recorded history, regardless of the timeline. It's a fascinating understanding.
And they would get commissioned by the Church of Rome to portray a historic event in a certain way, and it seems like all the artists were just taking jabs at the clergy. the whole time, kind of like, well, okay, who else are you going to get to paint all your stuff? You know, I remember one artist painted the bishop of the church as the devil in his painting. I don't know if this is meant to portray a flying object, but it is a strange version of Jesus being baptized by John the Baptist. This painting is the Annunciation of Saint Emetius.
Check this one out. This is crazy. So right here, if you see my arrow, look at this obvious UFO craft in the sky, and it appears to be beaming like a ray, like a laser beam, right down through into the head of what I think would be the Virgin Mary here. A depiction here. What are they trying to say? You know, what did it mean, the virgin birth of the Christ figure? You know, that if you look at the Bible, not just the New Testament, even the books of the Old Testament, or the Tanakh, as the Jews would call it, you find various references to these sky beings and these seemingly vehicles, advanced. Somebody brought up the wheel of Ezekiel, the story presented in the book of Ezekiel, the wheel in the sky. Very strange. The idea of angels. What are we talking about here? What is this really?
And you can see something being beamed into Mary's head. That's the angel Gabriel on the left. And then for some reason, Saint Emetius, who is from 300 years after Christ, and it looks like he's holding a small model of a city or perhaps the temple kingdom. They're outside the window as Mary is getting a dove message beamed into her head, and that's coming from this circular cloud thing up in the sky. If you can zoom in close enough, then that's a bunch of cherubs in a circle. And another thing,
Again, the cherubs. These idea of cherubs. They were apparently they're very high on the hierarchy of angels. Second and below only the seraphim. We might go into that a little bit in the future. The hierarchy of the order of angels and how they're classified. But again, these cherubim, you know, they're depicted throughout. Again, all this religious depictions.
other thing that's always struck me about this painting is just look at the city there. I mean, it looks like a pretty well-to-do neighborhood. I mean, there's nice rugs being aired out and peacocks and all of the intricate stonework that's painted, which we always just see the ruins being all stark white, but they used to paint all of that. But this seems a long way away from the manger to me, which I know that's just because the inn was booked. Here we've got just a ornate gold ball hanging out in the sky and a bunch of well-dressed, embroidered tunic and lacy dress maidens, and there's just a ball up in the sky. And I mean, you can't tell me that's a interpretation of the sun. I really don't have much more information than that on it. I wonder if any of these have anything to do with our interpretation of demons and devils. I've definitely heard people theorize that UFOs are demons, usually in the context of like interdimensional, but I guess they could be grotesque physical beings that live inside the earth. But there are a lot of these isolated incidents. In 217 BC, numerous witnesses in Rome watched a group of shiny round shields of polished bronze moving across the sky. At the same time, in the countryside east of Rome, many people reported seeing mysterious, quote, forms of men completely dressed in shining white, somewhat close to the great companies of men. 3 years later, people in northern Italy saw something like a large white marble altar in the sky, accompanied by human shapes clothed.
I'm the reliable one. I'm the dedicated.
Here's what I keep saying is that We might not know what any of this means, what it is. A lot of the details get lost through, antiquity and just through the sands of time. But what stories like this highlight for me is one simple fact is that the story that's being presented to us by the ruling elites, the story of this world, the story that they're giving us of science, basically atheism, this world of, that's purely physical as such, this very limited, bland world. They try to present it as, the infinite vastness of space and the ever expanding universe and infinite galaxies, and as that's supposed to give us some sense of wonder. But as they pin us to the physical, and as they paint us into a world that is mechanistic, they're basically obscuring the mystical nature of our humanity. And that's the most important thing for me, because we may not know what these stories are. We may never know. But they're insights into the nature of this reality. And it helps us break the indoctrination. Now, most people experience a high degree of cognitive dissonance when they approach these subjects. And then what they'll do is when they try to hold two conflicting ideals and understandings in their mind, they'll reject the novel idea. They'll reject the idea that is basically counter to the popular narrative. Most people will do so not because of any interest in what is right or wrong, not because of any interest in truth, but they'll do so because it's convenient. Because cooperation and compliance with the lie, the deception, and the delusion of these controllers is rewarded. People will simply disregard these types of understandings due to the control matrix. They're not interested in what's really true.
Brilliant white. 154 BC, more flying shield-like discs appeared. One night in 104 BC, people of two Italian towns watched as flaming spears and oblong-shaped shields rushed at each other in a kind of aerial battle. In 91 BC, and I know all these dates are off, but a huge fiery disc was accompanied by a sonic boom-like sound. Later that same day, people in Spoleto watched a UFO's vertical approach and takeoff as a great gold-colored ball rolled down from the sky toward Earth, then rose up again. That must be this one. In 74 BC, thousands witnessed a large flaming object of, quote, molten silver crash land between two armies on a Roman battlefield in Turkey. Can you imagine that? You're out there all pumped up with your swords and your spears and shields and about to go at it, and something crash lands right in between you and the enemy. So here's what I'm wondering is, if these are technological craft, then who got the crashes? And how long would it take before they could start reverse engineering the technology? Because if you didn't have any concept of electricity, then it would be really hard to figure out that that's what's making something work. I mean, even if you were to unplug the battery, everything turns off, you plug it back on, everything comes on. You just think the battery is a magic rock and start worshiping the battery. And I know some people will say, well, they were advanced back then. And I disagree that I think this is the most advanced we've been throughout this whole world age, meaning since the flood. And then there was a world before that got wiped out by fire, and a world before that got wiped out by something else. They could have been more advanced, but if our civilization got wiped out right now, people would use and know about steel, and it would be in abundance everywhere just because of the amount that we have pulled out of the ground right now. But we don't find that in the archaeological record. And if they were so much more advanced than us, then they'd know how to coat steel so that it doesn't rust, or have space age materials that would last a long time, like we do today, but we don't find any of that. Another event happened in Rome in 43 BC, where a spectacle of missiles and weapons and shields was seen to rise from the horizon up to the sky with a loud clashing noise. I don't know. There's just too many of these stories coming from different places that are too similar. And at a time when, if you told this to a stranger, they would probably think that you're crazy. But oftentimes, thousands of peoples and a whole city of Rome would see this happen. Now, I've got tons of accounts of aerial phenomena and stuff falling out of the sky. And those are very different from the accounts we're getting of this stuff. I mean, a huge black spearhead the size of a city. Look how big they've drawn that thing. So are these the ancient powerful ones that people used to worship as gods, and they just decided to take a break from humanity? I mean, as far as we know, there could be a continent the size of America down in the Pacific, and we'd never know about it if they didn't want us to know about it. I mean, how many deep sea explorers you know of these days? Anyway, I don't know. It seems like we are talking some type of advanced beings with technologies way before their time, or so ancient that people have just forgot about them. Static out.
Much love, Mr. Static. I'll drop his link in the chat. It's only right, since I've been using his material a fair amount lately. So let me drop it in. I'm also reminded of the story of Fatima, the secrets of Fatima, and how many, many people in this one region witnessed the sun and the sky basically do a bunch of crazy things that the sun and the sky aren't supposed to do. The fascinating thing is these things are corroborated. We're not talking about one person with an isolated story. I mean, there's those too. I'm sure many of us have our own stories we can tell of paranormal things or supernatural or things that appear supernatural. But, there's certain things where whole regions, people witness the same thing. So it's beyond any type of conventional explanation, really. Again, very fascinating to me. Quite fascinating. Yeah, I think it's incumbent to always kind of like have these different concepts in the forefront of our mind. Because again, I feel as though the indoctrination and the conditioning is so entrenched that it's quite easy to fall back into our old mindsets, our old paradigms, our old ways of being, behaving, understanding. So many ways to look at it. But yeah, good stuff. I'll put the link in for anybody who wants to come up. Links in the chat, folks. See if anybody wants to pop up. Rocky Shepard's been talking about the millennial reign, the short season, things like that. Mr. Rocky, a lot of that I can resonate with. This idea that there was a millennial reign of the Christ figure that's happened already. And that we're in the little season of Satan, and that you could potentially look at these ancient buildings from antiquity, this architecture, these structures that seem to be quite advanced. We see them now as these ancient cathedrals and things like that, but much of it's been destroyed. I'm still fascinated by this idea that even some of the Gothic type of architecture you find here in the Americas was actually inherited from an ancient culture. Some people peg the North and South Americas as the ancient Atlantis, which may be tied into this. And I'm starting to understand that many of these cultures that were presented from antiquity, even the flood of Noah, may have been on a much more recent timeline than is even being presented by some of the more esoteric schools of modern thought. You know, the timeline doesn't add up to me, mainly because many of the methods proposed to evidence the timeline, like carbon dating and some type of soil dating, where they take different columns of soil and they try to peg it to different epochs or time periods. To me, this is pseudoscience at best. In reality, once you get past a few generations of humanity, history becomes very unclear and becomes very easy to manipulate and lie about. So I take all conceptions of history with a huge grain of salt. A huge grain of salt. Like I said, links in the chat for anybody who wants to come up. I'll drop it again. Aaron Colbert says the Yucatan Peninsula held the sister city to Atlantis, made by Enki, called Poseidia. There's pictures of it. The west coast of Cuba, taken by Paulina Zalitsky, funded by the Russians. It's funny, Aaron. I just talked about Poseidia maybe 2 nights ago. So it's interesting you say that, and you associated the Yucatan Peninsula. Poseidia was apparently the final bastion of the doomed continent of Atlantis. I see 2 guests back there. Appreciate it, guys. Please hold them. Get you up in a minute. And like I said, anybody who wants to come up, you're welcome. This is the part where you get to come up and lend your voice to the Z Show. But yeah, Aaron, I'm well acquainted with Poseidia, and quite fascinating. Meaning to say, what many of the ancients presented as Atlantis, which apparently was first spoken of by the Greeks. I believe Socrates was the one. Potentially Aristotle, but I think it was Socrates. When they mentioned Atlantis, it was basically an island, like an island nation of advanced technology, advanced understandings, which apparently was consumed by some type of cataclysm. But apparently that was just this Poseidia, and that the actual civilization of Atlantis was basically the entire North and South Americas, and that civilization was preceded by the Lemurian civilization, which is now conjectured to be completely sunken under most of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, and that once spanned a distance from basically the east coast of Africa all the way to southern China, Burma, the island continent of Australia. Completely fascinating. Now, many of the mystery schools will present the civilization of Lemuria as something that existed millions of years ago. But to me, this is just a bastardization of the ancient understandings when they just mixed it with their new age pseudoscientific understandings of macro-Darwinian evolution, heliocentric cosmos and things like that. Because many of the writings we get from these mystery schools are from the early 1900s, when they were these types of new age popular scientism ideas were all the rage. So you have to kind of sort out the the precious metal from the base to get to the real understandings here. Let me bring up my guests. Much love, everybody. Thanks for being here, everybody. And let's welcome our guests, one Mr. Nachiketa and one Mr. Rock E. Shepherd. Welcome back to Z Show, gentlemen.
What's up, Z? How's it going, Rocky?
Hey, Z. Hey, Nash. What's up?
Greetings and salutations. So, Rock, I like what you were saying about the millennial reign depicted in the Old Testament. That the idea, even the depiction of Revelation in the New Testament, and that has already happened. So many people have been waiting for the second coming of the Christ figure, but there's an understanding now being brought forth by multiple researchers and investigators that this millennial reign has indeed already occurred. And then again, that much of the architecture that we see appears to be inherited from this so-called mud floods is a result of this millennial reign, and that we're actually existing in the little season of Satan. When I look around, that doesn't surprise me, Rocky. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and also, of course, Mr. Nachiketa's.
Well, there's a scripture that says Jesus was talking to the apostles and the people around him and said, "This generation shall not pass before you see all these things." And he was talking about the end time rapture and all that stuff. Yeah, so that's one. That's the Bible. I've been rethinking the Bible. They always told us that this generation, that they were talking about the generation that sees all of these things, but there's evidence that 66 AD to 73 AD was the time of the tribulation, and the millennial reign started right after that. And then you have these dates that, like, they added 1,000 years to our history or something. They put, it used to be 866 and there would be a J in front of it,
which is an I. Yeah, which is an I, which looks like a 1.
Yeah. So they added 1,000 years, and they've been lying to us. And then you go to 1833. Maybe that's the year the season started. And if you research that, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of stars fell from the sky. And we know the stars are living entities. And so that could be the time. I don't know. But then also, if Satan was in the pit, he was in the underworld for 1,000 years, and he's also identified as Leviathan. And Leviathan is huge. It's a huge thing, right? It's a huge animal, Leviathan. Now, if he's in the pit and he comes out, would that cause disruption on the earth? And then
okay, so you're basically pinning the return of the Leviathan, aka Satan, directly with some type of cataclysmic event that would be worldwide in nature.
Yeah,
you know, this understanding. This is fascinating. And Rock, you know, I've been researching this on the side for quite some time now, but more so recently because it is so fascinating to me, man. It's a different understanding of scripture, one that goes against what we've been taught, but we have to remember that academia, what people conjecture as quote unquote science, was actually brought to us by the Roman Catholic Church, and more specifically the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus. So this idea of, you know, say, oh, well, it's science. You guys are going against science. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Science has been analogous to the Vatican for at least the last 500 years and probably more. Why should we trust so-called science, especially, you know, like to hear Nachiketa's thoughts on this, when we look at science and we understand that many of the foundations that they base their theories on are presuppositions at best and are actually non-demonstrable. And when you look at applied physical science and when you look at the substantive world around us, much of the science doesn't hold up. So a lot of this to me is some type of religious mysticism anyway. So when people just cling to quote unquote science, that doesn't hold water for me anymore. Notch, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Am I audible? So, look, I've been really getting into this kind of alternative history stuff, flamenco stuff, and also this guy by the name of David Ewing Jr. And there's a channel called Act Like You Know, Raphael. I had him over at my channel, and then we talked about this as well. But long story short, all of history, as we've been taught, has been just completely fabricated. And, there's no such thing as like ancient Egypt or ancient Greece. And, when you start to think in these terms of 1,000 years being added, and the fact that all these so-called ancient languages like Hebrew, Greek, Egyptian, all these languages just been completely fabricated. And not to mention that all these European languages and the Slavic languages been created in the past 200-300 years, you're going to look at things very differently. Okay, so there's within the Islamic culture, and look, I'm not here to offend anybody, but like they have issues going on with the Hadith. They have their Quran, and then the Hadith are like extra material that is passed on by so-called prophets. But there are a lot of contradictions going on with that. And they also predict like so-called Mahdi, and this is like this Messiah programming that I was talking about over at my channel. And so there's this kind of idea that's gonna being popularized these days about the end times and stuff like this. But I don't really buy it. I think it's another form of programming. Long story short.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, Notch, a lot. So I share some of many of the similar understandings that you just laid out, which is very difficult to reconcile with this idea of hold on, Rock, I'll kick it to you next. With this idea of like you said, that ancient Greece, our understanding of ancient Egypt, and even the Sumerians, and this basic 6,000-year timeline they give us of recorded history. That's what we're told. The recorded history goes back 6,000 years, starting in Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent, and the Sumerians. That's the official story. Now, there's these other types of, let's say, mythology about, like we said, the pre-Diluvian periods associated with Atlantis and Mu and Lemuria and things like that, and back to the Vedics and the Aryans. But really, when we look at it, this idea of this ancient timeline, like you said, it's very hard to reconcile this 6,000-year understanding with this alternative understanding of our history that appears to be much more truncated, much more recent. So in your mind, Nachiketa, and then we'll hear from Rocky, and then I'm going to let my next guest up to join us. It would be, how do you, Notch, reconcile the pyramids, the big megalithic structures, and the timeline, and associate that even with, again, the last 500 years and the story of the Renaissance, the Gothic period, these big cathedrals? How do you, in your head, right now, Nachiketa, how do you categorize these things to give us a better understanding of, where these things fit into the timeline?
Okay, so like the further we go back, like more difficult to really try to put the pieces together, because there's not enough information. Things get fuzzier. So like something that people have to keep in mind is that like the whole Renaissance, right? Like it's after the takeover. The Renaissance occurred after the takeover. I would call it like the kind of a coup event happened. Okay. And Jesus did exist. And, now there's different trajectories that people are going to go with this. There's the Islamic and Muslim trajectory, which is that Jesus did not go up on the cross. I hear something on the background. I don't know whose mic's open, but basically, that's the direction, one direction. Then the other direction, which is basically the Catholic direction of Jesus being crucified. So those are the two different factions of ideologies that existed. So what we're discovering is that Europe was Arabic. That was the universal language. Okay, back in the day. Okay, there's no Aryan language. That's, I presume, and Sanskrit doesn't go back. Sanskrit is completely made up language. It's a very complex language. It's a perfected language, but I have to concede that it's not an ancient language. Okay, so there are all these so-called ancient languages and dead languages, such as Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, that's actually been invented. So they messed around with the timeline on that. As far as the pyramid is concerned, I don't think it's as amazing as I initially had thought, because that's all just kind of presented out to the people, to the public, to make them think, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing architecture. But they had maybe 150, 200 years ago, regular slaves, carrying stuff and using geopolymer to create these blockages, which are not 5 tons. So they're like way overestimated the sizes of the size of these blocks, pyramids. Yes, there are some technologies that were used. When you look at the buildings from Europe and around the world that are mud flooded, certainly some kind of technology was definitely used that was hidden to us. The paintings that are like wafer thin, whatever. But as far as like the story of what we are dealing with is actually obfuscation of our history by giving us a false presentation. I mean, how else to do it? So these so-called archaeologists were sent from England, France, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Netherlands, and they were going around and colonizing different parts of the world. And what they're actually doing is they're not uncovering anything. What they were actually getting involved in, their business was in fabrication. So this is a big part of the story that needs to be told to the public, in my opinion.
Wow, mind blowing. Tarek, welcome to Z Show. Much love.
Could you hear me? Hi, Z. Could you hear me good?
Yeah.
Excellent.
What's up,
hi,
Tarek?
Chiquita. How are you? And hi to the whole panel. No, I heard you say about the writing and also the hadith and Islamic things. So I want to comment on that a little bit. You are right. The hadith is different between Sunni and Shia and other sectors, but that's the main two. I don't know if you know that, Z, or not. The main two sectors are Sunni and Shia. And the Shia are the lesser. The Sunnis are like 85% of all Muslims. And he's so right on point by saying that there's such a difference in terms of the hadith, which is the translation of what happened, what did the Prophet Muhammad wanted people to do as Muslims or as a people of God. It got translated so different, and people have to understand the kings at that time, whoever ruled after the Prophet died, were all corrupt. All of them were corrupt. So whatever translation they wanted to put in there, they put in there. And in the Islamic rules, they have just like here, they have a chain of records. They have a chain of records over there. All they had to do back then to verify something that's true is to go to that tribe and have 3 witnesses that would swear on the Quran and say, this is exactly what's been said from the Prophet, like say his friends or his followers.
Like Bukhari and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then you get the Shia, which is the people that follow the lineage of the Prophet, all his family that was, murdered and martyred and all that. They have their own book that tells you exactly what was the narration from their perspective. And as you see, like even till now, if you take Iran or a couple other Shia countries, their translation is different than the Sunni countries, than Saudi Arabia and other countries. There is a big difference.
Yeah, can I jump in real quick? And I want to tell you that
I got a theory on all that too.
One second, let me just jump in real quick, because I've been studying this, and like the hadiths they got. I mean, like what we're basically talking about is eschatology here. right? The end times, and that's what the Hadith is about. It's the prophesizing of what's to come. Yeah. So they talk about the Mahdi and all this kind of stuff, but I want to tell you guys that like all the Hadiths, like you look at like the Bukhari Hadith is one of the oldest and the largest, and it's like quote unquote confirmed that's like have a lot of legitimacy to it. The guy who began it, he is a Swiss-born, Jesuit-trained, who learned Islamic studies in Europe, went to the Middle East, and he injected these ideas. So it was a way to divide and conquer the Middle East because nobody could touch the Quran. That's the thing, because they realized what they were doing with the Quran, which they were rounding up anybody who had Arabic, anybody who had the Quran. They were burning them. They were burning the people. So they were getting rid of the Quran. So that's the reason why the people had to memorize it by heart. And they were able to do that. So they couldn't touch the Quran, but they introduced the Hadith to corrupt the people.
Yes.
Full stop.
I agree. And I can add to that one more thing too. Is
it said
Go ahead, Rock. I'll let you speak. I'll speak after you. Go ahead.
I was going to follow up on the millennium thing. During the millennium, the scripture says that if you don't come, that if you didn't come and to the King of Kings, Jesus, if you didn't come and do something, I forget what it was you were supposed to do, like something, worship, maybe it was to worship the King of Kings, Jesus, that if your nation didn't come, that it would turn to desert, that you would get no rain. So
yes,
anywhere there's a desert, realize that those people did not come and recognize Christ as Lord and Savior or whatever. And therefore their land became desolate, like the deserts. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in. That might have a bearing on what you're all talking about.
I don't know if Z wants to interject, but I have something to say also to Nachikira, if it's okay. So Nachikira, you said about the what do you call it? The Mahdi. Like the one that's supposed to come back. The Mahdi. Yeah. And the Mahdi comes from the lineage of the Prophet's family, which is the Shia people. Now you have to understand one thing. Even though the Bukhari, like you're saying, it's very one of the best whatever in terms of the language and what it says in it, it's been verified by a lot of Sunni scholars. You have to understand too, at that time, the Sunnis had the power after the Prophet died, because what they did is they made sure they couldn't kill the Prophet's family because it would look bad. So they had to create chaos, and that's where the Hadith came in and stuff like that. And then they went against them and said these people were not on the right side, and they created that war between them. So at the end, they killed them one by one, and they let some go, but then they also poisoned them and stuff like that. So what I'm saying to you, even those books that have been written by the Sunnis, and I'm not trying to make a difference between the two because they both have their own issues, it's also not true, because the king at that time was also Sunni, and they controlled everything, so they based everything on that book. But to tell you the truth, the real books, from my opinion, the real books that come from the lineage and from the Shia people that actually buried it in the desert so they don't get killed, comes from Al-Jafari, which is the sixth Imam in the Islamic. Just let you know. So yeah, the Shia. You have to understand that Shia was oppressed.
Are they desert people?
No, it's not that. No, it's not a desert people. It was a lot of desert back then. What I'm saying to you is, the Shia people were the lineage from the Prophet family, so they were getting attacked from all the other people that want to control the world at the time. So if I had to, my own opinion, follow anything and listen to it, even though you still have to have discernment to see what's up, even with the Shia side, you would have to look into the Ja'fari. The Ja'fari is the sixth Imam that actually is related to the Prophet and from the lineage. And he has books and he tells you like a lot of different things. And there's some similarities. And the
Shia.
Yeah. And also, just to let you know, even the Imam, the sixth Imam, which is his name is Al-Ja'fari, what he did, he didn't want war between the two. He taught the Sunnis, all these Sunnis that you have in terms of the biggest ones in the world right now, they were taught by him so we can create peace, but it never happened.
Yeah, so like, I think one of the important informations that people should understand is that the European heritage is of Arabic origin. The original religion, you can say, is Islam. The ancient Arabic and current modern Arabic is different. Okay, they've changed it. It's been changed. But also ancient Islam. 1 second, sir.
Nagistan.
What are you saying?
You're saying that the American religion is what? Comes from Arab?
I didn't say anything about American religion.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you said something about the American.
I said Europe has Europe origin. No, the thing is, like Europe, like Jesus is born in Europe. Actually, Muhammad himself is European origin. He's red-haired white guy. Jesus is a yellow-haired, blue-eyed white guy. They both come from Europe. The people of Europe in the past, okay, more than 500 years ago, the religion that the language they spoke was ancient Arabic, and the religion they followed was Islam. Islam means just peace, and they were Muslims. Okay, that means they were servants of God. Okay, when the takeover happened, these people were pushed out of Europe. The people, original Muslims, were pushed out, and they had to go to the deserts and the mountains to survive. Okay, and then once Europe was taken over, they divided up Europe, and they killed all the men, and they basically raped women, and then they indoctrinated the children, and they gave them all different languages, and then on top of that, one second, let me just finish. No, the Knights Templars are actually okay. The original Knights Templars were actually, so there's three different groups of people. One is called the Cathars, one's called the Bogomils, and another one's called the Waldensians. Okay, they were all like Gothic in their belief. What that means is that they didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. They believed that Jesus was a messenger of God, and they also believed in a similar way. So they were the original Christians. So they don't believe that Jesus was crucified. Okay,
like the Gnostics. The Gnostics contained a lot of that info, right? Nachiketa, Gnosticism.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So hold on. So what did you want to finish, Notch? That you were getting to something and you got thrown off there. Did you want to finish? Just to finish this.
So once the takeover happened, they divided Europe up into these so-called different countries. Okay, and then they gave everybody different languages, and then basically because they already had the map of the old world, and they knew what they had to do to go and basically consolidate. So that was the consolidation happened after the Renaissance. Renaissance period was when all the languages were developed, including Sanskrit, Hebrew, Latin, and Greek and such. And they altered history during that time. And then they were sending out people to different parts of the world. And they're saying, we're going to carve up the rest of the world. And we're going to basically, it's a war against Islam. That's what it comes down to. That's what it is. It's a war against Islam.
Let me ask you some pointed questions, Notch. So where do you imagine the Jerusalem, the actual physical land, Jerusalem? Do you see that as some people say in the UK, maybe northern
Istanbul,
Scotland?
No, original Jerusalem was Istanbul, which used to be called Islambul, but that was the city in the ancient. It was the largest city in the ancient world. It was a city right between Europe and Asia, and that was the original Jerusalem. They changed it.
Which would make sense because it's the bridge between, like you said, Europe and then, the Middle East and Asia and things like that, which was later called Well, it was also called Constantinople. But you're basically putting all the Greek culture, the Roman culture, the Egyptian culture. You're basically saying that they actually never existed, and what we associate with the Roman and Greek architecture that was basically reinvigorated with the Renaissance. You're saying that wasn't it. That was just the original architecture, and there wasn't a rediscovering of this ancient period. You're putting them together. Is that kind of how you have conjectured?
Like the ancient Egypt, ancient Greek, and the ancient Romans, as we've been taught, is all fabricated. It's actually they're attributing these things, and they made up these characters and all this kind of stuff. And it's just to add number of years, add some. It's a kind of another like a distraction type of thing. Go look over here, kind of deal. But actually, that never happened. Okay.
So let me ask you then: do you see that there was? Is the idea that there was some great cataclysm before this, Renaissance Vatican type of takeover that basically wiped out most of humanity and the knowledge which would put a cataclysm very recently, because people will talk about the flood of Noah and they'll place it, 10,000 years ago with the fall of Atlantis, somewhere around 10 to 12,000 years ago. They have the idea of the end of the Younger Dryas, the receding of the glacial period and things like that. But it seems like you're putting this cataclysm event much more recent in human history. Can you give us an idea of that understanding?
Yeah. I mean, they had to have happened after the buildings were already built. I mean, doesn't that make sense already? The buildings are built, and then you have the so-called mud floods, and that's why they're buried in a story and a half of mud floods. I mean, if the mud floods happened and then the buildings came, then they would just be sitting on top of the mud floods. And the mud flood is all over the world, in Australia, South America, in America, Europe, in Japan and Russia, you name it. Mud flood is actually universal.
Yeah, it's recent. It flooded the millennial age. It's recent. 1800, 1776.
But I also mean that these buildings that got mud flooded must have been built prior to the flood. Otherwise, they wouldn't be buried in the mud.
By the saints. Helping humanity build superstructures. Michelangelo. What does that say? Michael, angel, Michael.
It's a fabricated character, like Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, they're Leonardo. They're all fabricated characters, but really, it was we use like AI technology.
They're
no, but what I mean is, okay, whatever. Well, whatever the way you want to put it. I mean, they didn't actually exist to create them.
Angels.
But yeah, Nachi has a point, Rocky.
Yeah, I hear
Rocky,
it, Nachi.
Nachi has a point.
He's saying it's the mud floods were recent. I'm agreeing with him.
So, Rock, are you saying? Hold on, Rock. Are you saying that the this Michelangelo that we're presented with as this great Renaissance artist, you're saying he was like an angelic being who created these things?
He painted those all by himself, and you see the carvings he's supposedly done. The carvings made out of marble and shit. How David, the carving of David.
Yeah, right.
David,
like David,
the hero. Right. He would, it's a statue of David, the hero in the Bible, because that's what Michael wanted to carve, the statue of David, the hero. And then he painted all those ceilings Who can do that now? It's an angel or a saint during the millennial reign. And then the
So
mud
you're
flood
s-
came
right.
and buried all that shit. And you Starport.
The
look up
story-
Starport.
The story of Solomon and him taking control of the demons, and the demons were being used to create these churches and temples, seems to be true. But Star Force and stuff like this, these impossible buildings. But the thing is, but Solomon is actually Charlemagne. Charlemagne is Solomon.
We're just coming from a different
Interesting.
worldview. I believe in the
Interesting.
Bible, and you don't. I believe in the Bible. You don't. I'm a Christian. You don't believe it. You're coming from a
No.
different
I believe some things of the Bible, but I know the Bible is tampered with.
Hold on. We could all differ here, but Rock, try not to step on people. One, your microphone's not the greatest, so even when you step on somebody, it's just all mumbled and jumbled and shit. It doesn't come off as good discourse. We could disagree. That's good. That's how we refine ourselves, and we get to
I'll
some
get
idea
my
of
better
truth.
mic out. I got this
These are
cheap
high.
mic.
These are. All right, get your better mic. Yeah, yours with some shitty fucking mic. You should know better, Rock, by now. You're supposed to be a professional.
I got 2 Yetis. They both fell apart. 2 Yetis. I bought 2 Yetis, and they both give me shit already.
That's what I have, a Yeti. But unlike you, I'm probably not like smashing it around in a fucking drunken haze. So I'm gonna put you in the back until you fix this. While Rocky's in the back, Flow State, welcome to the show. Can you give us some classic Rocky quotes that you've come across recently?
Well, Cynthia's keeping the list because she's, that's her nature more than it is mine. But I know that for sure there's going to be I don't hate homos, and trannies, just the word trannies, right? Another Rocky classic on the 365-day tear calendar of Rocky quotes. So every day you can sit on your desk and tear it, and you're greeted with a new Rocky quote.
All right. So the funny part is, if you go on my channel, Flow State or Cynthia, if you hear this, I have a whole anthology of Rocky Shepherd interviews under my Z's Truther Studio, and you can get primetime like 3 hours of Rocky Shepherd just rattling off his stuff. He has an interesting history. He's a Marine, so he served in the 80s, and then when the Gulf War came, and then even Desert Shield, the one that was whatever in the early 2000s, he was over there as like a contractor for some Black Ops fucking group, and he's almost died a couple times. So he's an interesting cat. But so here's the thing, Notch. I've been getting into many of the things that you're talking about, but you appear to be more detailed in your understanding than I am at this point, because many of the things you're saying, I'm resonating with, and I'm beginning to understand this more and more. But you're bringing it to a level that many people have not even approached. This idea that, the Bible as such was basically made up. I mean, if you're claiming that Solomon is Charlemagne, that basically discounts the entire Second Temple associated with the tribe of Judah and the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through Shem and Noah as the 10th man from Adam. Like, this throws that completely on its head and brings a completely different understanding, even claiming that there was no biblical Jerusalem, or that it was more in the Istanbul, Turkey region. Go ahead.
It's a very big mind fuck, and people do need to deprogram themselves a little bit if they want to try to wrap their mind around this information. But like, what have we been told about the Bible? It's Aramaic was the original language, and then it's written in Greek. And then like Hebrew is supposed to be older language. It's an older language where Arabic is supposed to come from, etc., etc. But if Hebrew was not the oldest language, it's actually a newer language. And if you flip things around where the Arabic is actually the oldest language. What's that?
That,
Hello?
that is true, actually.
Rock, you're back on the show, Rock. Keep it in your pants, whatever you're
Hey.
doing.
I was checking out my Yeti. Is it working better?
Sounds okay.
Yeah,
Sounds okay.
it's working, sir.
It's working better.
Yeah.
Not Chiquita, can I add something real quick?
Your
'Cause
microphone's
you're-
working great. Now shut the fuck up and don't use it.
I don't got,
Um,
I don't got
Okay,
a
go
mic-
ahead.
those
I just
sponges
wanted to add
still.
something because. Go ahead, Rock.
Go ahead.
All
I
right.
just said I didn't.
So
one of the
okay. So Nachi is right. Like a lot of the stuff, even the names are different. But I don't know if Nachi even knows this because like Arabic is way before these things, and a lot of the names, like when you say Solomon, in Arabic, Solomon is called Sulaiman.
Yes,
Like, for
Suleiman.
example,
Yeah.
Yeah, like Moses in Arabic, his real name is Musa. Jesus in
Musa.
Arabic, his real name is Isa.
Correct.
David, they're all different. So they've been changed, you're right. And I'll also give you something else in terms of like buildings and stuff they change. Mecca, for example, Mecca's been burned down twice. And the Saudis rebuilt it into this cubic Saturn. A lot of Muslims will probably go, they're going to probably not like what I'm going to say right now, but the Mecca actually resembles Saturn. And I
Well,
don't think
that's not entirely true because it's not exactly a square. It's 36 feet by 42 feet. So it's more of a rectangle than a square.
I understand what you're saying, but it's more of the what they use for the color and everything else in terms of their what do you call it, the Saturn stuff. So a lot of people go to Mecca, for example.
The cube.
Why is Mecca?
The cube.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I got
Why
a
is
theory on
Mecca,
the
for
cube
example-
too. I got a theory.
Yeah,
on the
why
cube.
is Mecca, for example, in a country that's really still follows Sharia law, which is to the extreme, and also barely have women rights and a lot of stuff, and people still go there to do their pilgrimage. There's a lot of it's just more
Hajj, yeah.
politics and business. Yeah, oh yeah, it's a lot of politics and a lot of lies in between. So I would never go to Mecca, never.
Okay,
I would
well,
never step.
we can. You're changing the subject a little bit, Tarek, and
No,
like I
definitely right,
don't
yeah.
I don't mind talking about the geopolitics of the Muslim or Islamic world because there's a lot of shit that's going on there, and it's a divide and conquer tactic. You know, with using the Iran and all the stuff that happened in the Middle East, and like with the Desert Storm and everything like this. But just to go back to what I was initially talking about is what Z was asking me in a very poignant manner. Is like, how do you reconcile all this history that's been taught to us? And Moses actually was around the time when Jesus was around, according to the Quran. Okay, so like, yes, so like you can't have it both ways. That's the thing, like when you look at how the Bible has been explaining, like, oh yes, we have this long history. Everybody seems to agree that ancient Egypt is like 6,000 BC, et cetera. Well, and then okay, we can agree that the people actually lived longer and they were giants and stuff like this or whatever. But still, between the time of Moses and Jesus is supposed to be thousands of years in between. Yet in the Quran, it talks about Musa and Isa, because all these names have been fabricated and changed around for a particular reason of, really actually giving you a falsified history of things, because even the letter J hasn't been around until like the 1500s, 1600s, as we know.
You're right. And just to let you know, you're right. I went off topic. Camel in Arabic has 1,000 different ways to say it in Arabic, just the Arabic language. You can say camel 1,000 different times in a different way, just to let you know about the language things. And David, again, in Arabic is called Dawood. Big difference, like in terms of the name and how they relate to English. So there's a lot of things, like you were saying, changed.
Notch, let me ask you this. I've been wondering about, as you said, the name of Jesus, if there's no J, it was an I, is like Isu or Isuus, right? Now, we're given a Greek god named Dionysius or Dionysius. Dios seems to mean God, and Isis. Do you think there's a connection between the Jesus, the Christ figure, and this Dionysus god that was presented? Are they one and the same?
So this is getting into the zeitgeist stuff. You know, the reason why Jesus' birthday is December 25th, as we know, is because that's a pagan holiday, right? With the winter solstice and all this kind of stuff, right? The rising of the sun. So effectively, what happened was that once, because Isa existed, Jesus existed as a genuine individual. He was a prophet. He was an actual Messiah. And he was born of a Virgin Mary. So this is all written in the Quran. It's also written in the Bible. That aspect of it is true, and I believe it to be true. But him being obfuscated, his imagery being obfuscated to match Osiris, Horus, like Mitra, Dionysius, all these other characters. This is all part of their like kind of astrotheology / taking control of that imagery for their, own grifting purposes, I would say.
Interesting
So there's,
thought on that
there's
one.
the image,
Yeah, and like
there's an image of Jesus that's been confiscated and used by the church, specifically the Catholics, and then there is the actual real living prophet, Messiah individual who lived a different life than the way they were presenting him.
Yeah, this stuff's fascinating, man. It's for one to come to even begin to embrace these understandings. It's a long road because you have to remove many veils to get here. I understand why the average plebe would be resistant to these type of understandings, because it completely throws on the head, it completely flips on the head our entire understanding of history, what's been presented to us. And it's a completely different narrative that it's only when you can look at this world with unindoctrinated eyes as much as possible where you can start to understand these things, because it's really not about the information. It's about getting past the magnitude of the deception, because most people just say, oh, there's no way this could have been perpetrated. There's no way they could have just made up history. That would have been impossible. Too many people would have figured it out, and so many people would have to be in on it. But so I see why people don't approach this.
We're floating around in a wobbly pear-shaped ball, apparently, and everybody thinks that that's the truth, right? So like all these things go hand in hand, and they're all perpetrated by the same group of people, predominantly the Jesuits and the Masons.
Right. I did a presentation yesterday on the Rosicrucians, man, which were basically the precursors to all the Masonic understandings, and who may have made up these Rosicrucians. The Rosy cross. It's the symbol of the cross with the rose on it. There has to be huge symbolism there. But hold on, before we get too heady intellectual, because sometimes, it gets a little too heady, we need to bring up a little bit of the fair of the species to kind of show off what Lindsay, why do you come on and do this? It's going to drive guys like Rock crazy. Rocky Shepard's a married man, and he doesn't need to see you in a two-piece bikini. You know that, right, Lindsay?
Yes. But I just wanted to, pipe in to help justify the more traditional Arabs and also the progressive Arabs, and point out and illustrate to you, this is why it's good that women don't make decisions.
Exactly. You and I can agree on that one, Lindsay. You and I could both agree on that, because they make decisions like, you seem to be making in your Lindsay, how's your new boyfriend going? The guy that you're dating from the gym? What's
I wouldn't
the update
call
on that?
him a boyfriend yet.
Yeah? What would you call him?
Someone I'm dating.
Yeah.
But what does that have to do with this intellectual conversation we're having?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, intellectual, real intellectual.
Why did you take it a step down?
She's right, Z.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
What do you think about what I was talking about, Lindsay? Does it make sense to you at all? Do you have any questions about what I was speaking about?
Well, I did like what you had to say about differentiating the Shiite and the Sunnis, because it resonated with what I learned, which is that one of the two is much more traditional than the other. And also Tarek chimed in on that. But I think both present a danger to modern society in the Western world. I think both do. I'm not on the same page with you as far as integrating and accepting and maybe cultivating diversity when it has to do with the spread of practices like not letting women make decisions, or thinking they don't have any leadership qualities, or thinking that they're stupid or less than. But what you have to say is more historically based and therefore more interesting and educational, and I thank you for that. And I have much respect for you and your brain.
Well, Lindsay, Chuck from Tennessee is wondering if indeed you might be the whore of Babylon. Do you have any
Chuck
thoughts on
likes
that?
me. He would never call me the whore. He would call me the hole. Thanks, Chuck. Love you too.
Holy moly.
Okay, I will step down. I don't want to interrupt your talk. I'm obviously trolling. Much respect to the greater of the species. And thank you for leading us women, because we sure need it. Look at this mess I got myself into. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you.
You're welcome.
Blessings. For some reason, I was sensing a bit of sarcasm there from the lovely Lindsay regarding my thoughts on women and their role in society. Because, Lindsay, don't feel bad, because I know I said that women shouldn't vote, but I don't think anybody should vote. I don't believe in democracy or anything like that. So don't take it so hard when it comes to the voting thing. Much love, though. The lovely Lindsay, everybody. May God help us all.
But if anyone should definitely not vote, it's probably women.
It's probably women. I mean, like, yeah. If you like if we're going to still, yeah, especially like Lindsay, which is funny because we have Kimmy's Playhouse, who just came from Bible study, and then we had Lindsay coming in as the whore of Babylon. So fits right in. Unbelievable. So here's the thing, Rock. Rock, we can see you. It's called a camera. He might be a little delayed. He's trying to just click on her channel, Rock. It's the Lindsay Smith channel, and you'll be able to get as much Lindsay as you want.
You can. Do you know how to do screenshots?
We can't hear you, Rock, which might not be the worst thing ever. Your Yeti Blue microphone's not working, Rocky.
He keeps getting these Yeti coolers and wondering why it's not improving his audio quality.
Oh, I had it on mute. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm taking a short clip right now. Watch. See, I'm taking a and then I just turn it off. Now, if I just had someone in tech would show me how to transfer that to my computer, that'd be okay.
Yeah, Rock. You can save that for later. I'm sure your wife won't mind. At this point, she's probably just happy to have you out of her hair, dude.
Yeah, she enjoys me when I leave. She says she enjoys it when I'm gone.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. Isn't marriage great, everybody? You can't even fucking stay in your own house.
We're old. We don't get in the humping that much anymore.
God, Rock, that's.
But how
She's
much
hot,
is not
though.
that much, Rocky?
Like once a month, maybe.
Right.
We don't need to know this. This is not anywhere we need to go. This is horrible, actually.
This is pertinent information right here.
Yeah.
So let's
Because
never
we need
seen
to
a
know which
picture
day
of
of the
my
month it is
wife.
so we can sync the calendar so that there's a special quote on sex day of the month.
My wife's gorgeous.
Much love. Rock. Much love.
Okay, I have questions for Tarek and Notch though. If we want to bring it back to out of Rocky's
Yeah, let's
sex
bring
life.
it back to the
All right.
millennium.
Please, let's do. Please.
Okay. Tarek, the question about Esau, you said Jesus was pronounced Esau. Is that any connection to Esau from the Old Testament, who is Jacob's brother, who got the blessing stolen from him?
You know, I didn't read the Bible like all of it that much. I read some of it, but I don't know how to answer that question. But I know Jacob in Arabic is not called Jacob; it's Yaqub.
Yeah, someone said that Jesus was living during the time of Noah, and that Jesus visited Noah and Moses and all that. Yeah, we know that. The Bible, you know, Jesus is incarnate in all over the place in the Bible. Melchizedek. Yeah, Jesus lived during Noah, and he appeared incarnated in some form where people could see him. So that's not a new thing. We know that.
So I've looked into this Jesus as the angel of the Lord thing, Rocky, and the evidence is not very convincing to me, but I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. That's just one part of it. The millennial reign thing is a big study. You got to check
and
it
then
out.
for Notch, go ahead if you weren't done.
No, I was gonna say something real quick. Like even in the Quran or the Bible, it does say that Jesus is coming back to save the world. Like to me, sometimes because both religions are a little bit different, and they do have some commonality for sure, but they both believe that Jesus is coming back to save the world.
Islam holds that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, Jesus.
It's in the Quran.
Does Islam
Yeshua.
hold
Joshua.
that Jesus only is coming back, or Jesus amongst others?
No, in Islam it says Jesus was like what Nachi was saying with the Mahdi, which is like the last Imam of the Shias, the last one from the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad. So they're both coming back, but Jesus is the main one. The only thing is that I don't like that I've been around, like say the Muslim people, they don't talk that much about Jesus, which kind of baffles me. If he's the one to come to save the whole world, why don't you, for example, talk about him more? They talk a lot about Muhammad, but they barely bring Jesus. And I had these talks with some of the Muslim scholars, and they just say, no, we talk about Jesus. But I used to go to the mosque, and they don't talk about Jesus as much. They talk about Muhammad a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and also one has to make the distinction that the Quranic, scriptures in the Quran, I would say is accurate and not to be. I mean, I don't want to put it this way, but it's like there's a lot more legitimacy to the Quran, but I put no legitimacy to the Hadith, none of it. That's the main point. Yeah. So, like, where does the Mahdi come from? It's coming from the Hadith. So they don't talk about the Mahdi in the Quran, as far as I know.
No,
but they talk about Jesus. What's that?
What's the Hadith?
Hadith is extra scriptural material in the Islamic culture that is written and passed down by the so-called prophets. You know, so there's 6 books in total that were accumulated like 300 to 400 years ago and been passed down. And like Tarek was saying, that there's the Shia and Sunni versions of these Hadith that they differ in some way, but I don't put any credence to either sect of the Hadith. I don't put any credence to Hadith at all, period.
Oh, so they're not canonized in yours.
It's not part of the Quran. Quran is the best Hadith.
Should
so
the
here's the thing,
Quran
hold
be
on,
made
Rocky.
part of the canon of scriptures?
Hold on, Rock. Here, it doesn't seem as though Nachiketa is holding these things as a belief system. He seems to be exploring these as a researcher.
Oh, yeah.
Where you seem to be coming at it as if it's a belief. I mean, I don't want to speak for Nachiketa or you, but that seems to be like to me where a lot of people cannot reconcile their particular understandings between what they're holding as a belief or in some ways as a spiritual manifesto or doctrine, as opposed to more of a historical one and objective. But let me ask you something, Notch. As you explore these things and go deeper and deeper into this esoteric knowledge, how is it affecting the way that you perceive the world? And even more directly, how is it affecting the way you interact with people? And I'm just speak like this before you go, is that as I go deeper and deeper into these understandings, which many people will not approach, I'm finding that it actually is it's giving me a fair degree of compassion towards people, like a loving understanding, like an intent for them. I really just see most people as under a mass delusion, a hypnosis, and a deception. So so basically I blame them not for what they do, so to speak. So it's informing me in that, but it's disconnecting me from my humanity in the sense that there's a greater and greater chasm between me and my neighbors and my community. And I'm just wondering how, as you delve into these things, how that's affecting you on the level of, being a man, a human, for lack of a better term.
Couple things. First of all, I've already made the decision to wander off in the path that I'm going down. So I'm going, and there's no looking back. And we make these decisions, and then we can't go back in time, and I don't have any regrets. And to be honest, it's a blessing, in my opinion, to come across this information and really being able to digest it. And it brings clarity in my mind, and I'm like seeing how all the pieces are actually fitting together. The flat Earth kind of thing, and the Mandela effect thing, and the alternate history type of thing. And right now, I'm getting high on this alternate history vibe, but like I see who the perpetrators are. I see who they are working for, and how long it's been, and why we're in the condition that we're in now. So to me, this is valuable information. And if people are not going to be on board with it, well, no different from any other information. If people are not going to be on board with the flat Earth thing, or people are not going to be on board with the Mandela effect thing, like I can't make anybody do anything. I can only do my own research and present the material the best I can, and then the rest of the work is, you are responsible for, making sure that information is correct or not. That's all.
Let me get a question in it, Notch. You've mentioned alternative history and mud flood a couple times since I got up here. When I look into that, I'm sitting kind of on the fence on mud flood, because a lot of that shit, if you start poking around at it, seems to be AI generated. And so since you've traveled around a lot more than I have, for instance, have you seen buried structures in real life? And how much of them?
I cannot say, because the thing is, like, I wasn't looking for them when I was traveling. It never crossed my mind. So like I've only became mud flooded affected, let's call it, like mud flood affected, after I came to where I am now. But when I go visit Delhi, which I do every once in a while for whatever reason, I look at the structures there, and I see that some of those buildings are like a little bit like, popping out from the ground. So yeah, I've noticed a few buildings in Delhi, they have old kind of like Elizabethan or Renaissance style type of structure, that are out of place for in India. So yeah, I've noticed, but like I wasn't looking for it. Like when I was like traveling around in Beijing. Beijing is actually called Tartar City. It was actually, it was like almost like a center of Asian area, like some long time ago. But when the Han Chinese, like the Mongoloid
Beijing?
Chinese, Beijing, yeah, Beijing.
Tartaria.
Beijing
sounds a lot like Tartaria. Sounds a lot like Tartarus. Like the Titans were. There's a theory that
actually
they came out of that area. That's where they escaped the Earth. Was they came out of Tartaria area. That's why it's called Tartaria.
Yeah. So these like names like Tatar, like these names kind of change over time depending on the dialect and stuff. But Tata basically means father, like Papa, Baba, Tata. Okay, so Tartaria is fatherland. It's basically another word for fatherland. It's like Arya, like Aryan. Arya means noble, so it's noble father land is what it means. Okay, so like the Russian, Mongolia, and northern part of China, because when you look at like the China Great Wall, so-called the Great Wall of China, they're facing the wrong direction. The history that we've been given is that, oh, like the Chinese made these walls to, you know, stave off the Mongolians, you know, from their land. But the truth of the matter is the doors and the windows are all facing the wrong direction. It's actually the opposite. It's the Tartarians building these Great Wall of China to keep the Chinese at bay. You know, the Han Chinese, the people who look like me, you know, like those guys, you know.
The wall is also not just a wall; it's a road. It's the
yes,
Silk
it's a road. Yeah, it's a Silk Road. Yeah. So it had multiple purpose. Yes,
like an old Roman road that was built on an older road. It was actually like it's been there many times. Like it was built once, and then the Romans built over it and built on top of the old one. It's pretty cool because it goes from one ocean to the other or something. Yeah, but what I was saying was Tartaria kind of sounds like Tartarus, where, you know, the Titans are kept in Tartarus. And so the theory is that maybe they came out when Satan was released from the pit. That's where he came out from, was Tartaria area. That's where he was released, all the things. That's why it's called Tartaria. Because it's where the pit opened, Tartarus, and we're in Satan's little season. Anyway, that's a whole different subject because it's a different worldview than yours. So it's, I don't know. I thought you want to do some research on what.
No, but
what
the thing
Bible,
is, like, I believe in the existence of Satan and the jinns and you know, and the demons and such, and it seems to be like at the highest level. That it's a game of free will. We as human beings, we're kind of condemned because we are also because of our egos and such, that we are here to be tested. That's you know, like that's the tough story in this narrative. You know.
Hey, say that again. Start about the eagles.
Ego, yeah. So because of our ego, like basically human beings who are ego. Yeah. So like human beings who are here, we are fallen creatures in essence. That's why we're here. You know, that's long story short of it. And they talk about that in the Quran, and they also talk about that in the Bible. And you know, and like the jinn, you know, the fallen angels who are the demons, they work with the devil to basically erase all this history. So there are people who are at the very top, and you know, like the history in the past is quite sad because like our ancestors were like literally burned alive, and they were consumed, they were tortured, and then you know the women were raped, and then the children all became orphans. You know, yeah. All these missionary schools, you know, they were created to reprogram everybody and give them a new language and new identity. And that's just true with all of our ancestors, whether you like it or not.
Children put in orphan homes and
Oliver Twist. It's Oliver Twist. You know, that it's a real story.
Their children are orphans because their parents are in insane asylums because they had
or
to
killed
be shut
off.
up because these were the millennial people that survived the millennial age and then the reset. And so they had to put all these older people in the crazy bin and put their children in orphans because they had to shut the saints up, or the people that remembered the past history. They put them in a insane asylum, put their children in orphanages. And
the Inquisition didn't just happen in Spain. They had the Inquisition that happened in Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, all over Europe, Australia, Canada, and America. Okay, America.
See, that's why
is
you
not.
should listen to your elders, because they want to put your elders in loony bins. They call me a loony. I own up to it. Okay, if I'm a loony, give me some money. I got PTSD. I'm a loony. Pay me, motherfucker. You motherfucker stole all my fucking taxes. Give me some of it back.
There's a quote for you, Flow State. You keep.
I know. I was just writing it down in the chat so I remember it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable,
Wisdom
Rock.
comes from the elderly. Wisdom
So
comes from
in
the elderly. Get
America,
over it. I'm
in
older than all
America,
you
we already had white people and black people who were living in America. So all this story about like the American Revolution and this story about the Jews bringing like black people from Africa, that's also like a little bit of a fabrication because I don't know how the logistics of how that could have worked with like packing a ship full of people and trying to feed everybody, and then they have a 3-month ride from across the Atlantic and all this kind of stuff. But there were already black people here in America. There were already white people here in America. Okay. And all these cities like San Francisco, Salt Lake City, Chicago, they were already existing. There's this idea of Magna Carta and then like we colonizing the 13 colonies and then moving to the West and all this. This is and the Civil War is another cover up of all this. And the Revolutionary War was a cover up for all this. But
I've gone down this one, Nachiketa, this idea. We were talking the other night. About the thought that the Mormon Tabernacle Cathedral was just an inherited building that, for whatever reason, the Mormons knew, whatever this Joseph Smith knew, and then later Brigham Young, they were migrating out west because they knew there was like these structures out here. For whatever reason, they were aware of this information, and then they inherited it. And the same thing with San Francisco. But then you find these great fires that consume these structures and the demolition of these structures. And we know the stories about the World's Fairs and this idea that maybe these were pre-existing buildings and then they destroyed everything afterwards. So this stuff is
there's so many
endlessly
fires.
Fascinating. Right.
There's so many fires.
Theory on the Mormons temple and America is that the New Jerusalem, or the Jerusalem, is America. Israel is America. It's because it's not a place really; it's a people. So the people that believe in Jesus is where the real Israel is, and that's where America is now. So we are the real the Israel, and then it shows like California used to be like a island, and,
right. I've seen
it's
that.
kind of weird how they correlate America with New Israel, and then you have the X coming down across America, April 8th through Nineveh, and so is that saying that that's going to be the landing spot of New Jerusalem? Or what? See, because the New Jerusalem is 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles. So it can either be a cube or it can be a pyramid. And so if you see a pyramid coming down out of the sky over America, is that evil or is that the New Jerusalem? Do they got us hating the sign or the image of New Jerusalem coming down from the sky and make you thinking it's evil aliens or something gonna, a spaceship, but it's 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles. It can only be either a pyramid, which is 1,500 miles square at the bottom and 1,500 miles at the top, and they all see an eye. We know who that is. That's Jesus. And then, or it can be a cube. So you got the black cube. They got Americans hating the black cube. And all people are anti.
My goodness.
Everybody that's anti-American are hating the Masons, or And
I don't know, man. If
but
some
it's real.
craft comes out of the sky, I'm not going to trust it. I'm not going to trust any beings associated with it. I'm not buying it with these people. I don't think they're going to have my best interest in mind. Certainly. All right, guys.
What if it's
let's wrap
the
it.
new-
Hold
what if
on. Hold
the kingdom
on,
of
Rob.
heaven coming down?
Hold on,
What?
dude. You're like a fucking wrecking ball, dude.
I'm telling you.
I want to get to the news, dude. We can go on about this for fucking ever, but I want to get to the news, man. This stuff's blowing my mind in so many ways. It's been blowing my mind, but as I'm starting to incorporate this shit more and more into my consciousness, it's just I'm realizing that, it's like a fucking fractal reality that never ends in its bizarre nature. And I'm not trusting anything. I'm not trusting any gods. I'm not trusting any messiahs. I'm door slamming everything, Flow State. I'm slamming the door on and everything. Just leave me alone, everybody.
It's a safe way to be. Just, just slam the door and then just be in your room and then just rock back and forth and be like, okay, this is my safe space.
Go to your cave and meditate.
Maybe you could get an adjacent mountain to Notch.
Right. Notch, do you have any room? Do you have any, like, I don't know, any Sherpas that maybe want to look for a subletter up where you live where I can grab?
Yeah. We'll set you up. There are caves around here, just need to go, whatever. Like if you can, if you don't mind hauling water and then, shitting out in the woods, no problem, man. We'll set you up. There's space for anybody who wants. No, I do not. I used to.
Hauling water and shitting in the woods.
No, I do haul water, but I don't shit in the woods. I do have
a
Z. Okay.
Why are all the elite? Why are all the elite building underground bunkers?
Rocky, are you tripping? Like, I feel like you're tripping. Are you tripping on something?
He's always tripping, man. He's perma tripping, dude. He's perma. He just looks for an excuse because that wife of his won't let him up to the cabin, so he's got to find panels to go on and do something with his time.
Ansi, go do some meditation. Go and pray. Pray to God. Will my wife let me up to her cabin, please?
The interesting part about most people that resonate around these communities is we're like the 0.001% of the population. And then we end up kind of like arguing over the minutia. But I mean, just getting past like, the whole orbiting the sun and the space presentation, that's hard enough for some people to get to. Most people will never get there. They'll never get there. And I don't expect them to at this point. I'm fine with it. But that's not going to stop me from putting this information out and exploring these things, because if people want to be willfully ignorant, that's their choice. But if they're ignorant due to deception, that's a world that I can't live in. So I'm going to do what I can to keep expressing these things. And then people at least have a choice. Notch, did you ever think about taking your work? Because like much like me, you come on maybe and you do like a 4-hour show or you do a long stream. And what I do periodically is I go through like my stuff and I pick out certain videos and I'll present them as standalone videos under playlists. I'll basically curate my things. Do you have any plans on doing that with your work? Because people aren't going to go back and watch hours and hours of live stuff, and you can't expect people to do it, which is understandable. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been reading books for the past couple of weeks. I've been trying to and I've been just trying to figure out a way to formulate I don't know, like a lesson plan or something where it's like presentable, that is palatable for the public, because it's like because when you're dealing with all this kind of reprogramming type stuff, and this is kind of edgy, like this information is a little bit like, not only controversial, but it's a little bit, a little bit out there for most people. So, trying to be able to share this information with the public, that's not going to be an easy thing. But yeah, I think I will try to make something and try to. And I recommend people, again, I don't take any credit. David Ewing Jr. has already written books about it. And there's a YouTube channel called Act Like You Know, Raphael, Act Like You Know 26, Raphael. And he has done great interviews with David Ewing Jr. and Andreas Zertis. Did some interviews. I had them over at my channel. So both of them were over there. So I recommend people to go and check out their material as well. I will have David on. We had a conversation today, and he just wants me to be familiarized with his material, and then I will be interviewing him hopefully next month, some point. We'll see.
Nice. All right, everybody. Final thoughts for the audience so I can move on to the news.
if the old world was made the way that they said it was, where are all the chisels? That's what I want to know. Later.
Much love, Mr. Flow State. Go ahead, Rocky. Final thoughts for the crowd, Mr. Rocky Shepherd. As always, you came with the knowledge, and I resonate, Mr. Rock, with a lot of the things that you present. Regarding the Bible's association, with history. To me, the Bible is meaningful in so many ways. I don't just hand wave dismiss the Bible like a lot of people do as nonsense, but to me, it's discovering the meaning, in it, and this idea of what are they trying to convey to us? What are they trying to hide? What's encoded in the Bible? Because I look at the Bible in many ways of allegorical. To me, I look at it as astrological in a lot of the ways, and I associate a lot of the stories with the heavens and certain types of energetic qualities. But final thoughts, Mr. Rocky Shepherd.
Yeah, history is not what it seems for sure. I don't know exactly what's going on, but our history is kind of a mystery. And I think I might have found another clue. That's it. Anyway, thanks for having me.
All right, Rock. Much love, man. Take care. Take care of yourself.
I don't have nothing against Nash. I enjoy his stuff too. Thanks, Nash. Bye.
Mr. Rocky Shepherd, everybody. Go ahead, Notch. So here's the thing, Notch. You're embroiled with some like deep stuff, man. You seem to be way into it. I'm wondering if what you're going to find is the more you get into this, the less your material is going to become like widely accepted, which is fine. It seems like a road you've chosen. It's a road that I've chosen, where the more specific you get in one's research, the less general the understanding for the average plebe. But maybe that's not the point in these times. Maybe the point is not to try to appeal to some type of consensus, even amongst the truther community. Maybe this is a time where a lot of these deceptions and things that have been presented to us need to be uncovered. But here's what I'm wondering, Nachiketa, is it possible that these deceptions were instituted in some way for our benefit? Like, we seem to have a humanity and a mankind that's being managed in some way by some type of higher beings, or maybe more powerful beings, not necessarily higher or greater. Is it possible that they're managing us like for some reason that may be less nefarious that some people might imagine? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe could be that possibility. If I cross that bridge and the evidence that I uncover point me to that direction, then yes, I will say that might be the case. But I don't really generally think deception is a good thing, and it's basically saying that we're not capable of knowing the truth. I think we deserve the truth, but people also should want the truth though too. So they have to, and like long story short, I think, and just to keep it like very brief, I think there is a deal that was made between the devil and God is giving time for the devil and the demons to basically corrupt mankind, and the mankind, and this is like a whole free will philosophical line that you can go down on. And so basically right now people have the choice. People can choose to know the truth and find out more about what this life is about, other than just partying and YOLO and stuff like this. And maybe there's something more, but that's something that each individual have to decide for themselves. I'm not here to tell people how they should live. I am only here to know how I'm going to live for myself. And if other people are, going in that path, great. If not, no problem. I'll go in the direction that I'm going to go anyways. Right. So That's kind of the situation as I see it. And then like things are just kind of being played out in the, the meta way it is, and we're either you're going to uncover it and try to find some, I don't know, understanding of like why you're here and why things have happened the way they have happened, or we're just going to be living in confusion and not really care about anything. So I think these are the choices in my mind.
Rock and roll, man. I love it. Much
All right, take care.
love. Much love. Check out Nachiketa. I dropped his link and Mr. Rocky Shepherd's link in the chat. Go check them out. Good stuff, everybody. Real good stuff. Lindsay says intelligence is attractive, but I don't know, Lindsay. How intelligent is the guy you met from your gym? I bet he's a real fucking genius, I'm sure. I just love it with you ladies because you always make these like bold, grandiose claims about what you're looking for in a man and what you value in men, but funny enough, your behaviors and actions and your history seem to prove the complete opposite. I find that fascinating about you lovely ladies is that your expressed wants and desires in terms of a sexual partner typically don't match up with your actual behaviors. It's a weird part of humanity, which is why I keep telling my my gentlemen listeners, really don't listen to anything these ladies have to say, because they say a bunch of stuff, but it's really more about people's actions. Anywho, all right, everybody, it's that time of the show. It's time for, whoops. I was going to say it's time for news, but for whatever reason, I didn't have the news brought up. I had my intro music brought up. Let's try this again. Ladies and germs, men and women of all ages, it's time for news. In tonight's top story, from Politico, Pence won't endorse Trump. Mike Pence said on Friday that he would not endorse Donald Trump for president in 2024, breaking with the man who tapped him as vice president only to make him the target of an angry mob for his refusal to help with efforts to overturn the 2020 election. It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year, Pence told Fox News. The former vice president ran against Trump for the Republican nomination this cycle, but bowed out of the race months before voting began after failing to gain any traction with voters. Pence becomes the most prominent Republican to date to say he will not back Trump in the 2024 election. Other Trump skeptics include Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, have announced that they will back the presumptive nominee. All right, so, well, no surprise. Mr. Pence, the former vice president, will not be endorsing former President Donald Trump in his bid for the 2024 presidency. Interesting. Wonder who Mr. Trump will pick for his vice presidential running candidate, or at least who will be selected for him. Z's going to go with a female. I'm going to go with he's going to pick a woman this time around. I don't know. I just have my money on that. Will it be that Haley, the former governor of South Carolina? I'm not sure. I'm going for, what's her name? That super hot governor from South Dakota. Have you guys checked that chick out? I mean, look, as far as politicians go, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying she's like a supermodel, but she's pretty good looking. She's definitely hotter than Sarah Palin, and she was a Republican vice presidential nominee at one point. Didn't make it to the White House. She's certainly more better looking than the current vice president, Mama Kamala. But either way, Trump, pick somebody hot. Just for me. I don't really care about her politics because turns out you politicians don't really do much anyway. You kind of present a platform that's associated with your party, and then you basically just kind of like go through the motions of politics. So, hell, at least give us somebody to look at, Mr. Trump. From NBC News, 12 months of record ocean heat has scientists puzzled and concerned. Every day for the last 12 months, the world's sea surface temperatures have broken records. Ocean scientists are growing increasingly concerned. It's not just an entire year of record-breaking ocean temperatures, but it's the margin of its breaking them by. It's not even close to what the previous record was, said Brian McNulty, a senior research associate at the University of Miami School of Marine, Atmospheric, and Earth Sciences. Quote, that's what's raising the eyebrows of a lot of people. Average sea surface temperatures today are roughly 1.25 degrees Fahrenheit higher than they were from 1982 through 2011, according to the University of Maine's Climate Reanalyzer. It's a huge anomaly that could have significant effects on weather and ecosystem. Human-caused climate change is likely playing a role, researchers said, but it's probably not the only factor. Climate models predict a steady rise in sea surface temperatures, but not this quickly. And ocean surface temperatures also fluctuate and can be affected by natural climate variability, including patterns such as El Nino and La Nina. All right, so of course they have to throw in the narrative of human-caused climate change, but have to say that we need to temper those understandings with what they're calling natural fluctuations by things like El Nino, La Nina, et cetera, et cetera. Well, here's the interesting thing about the rise in temperatures. Now, we could argue probably all day long about human influence on climate change. The first thing I would ask is, I don't know, based on some of the understandings that me and others like me are coming by, the type of, let's say, technology that we're using for our mechanistic world is a very dirty technology, very basic. It's combustible technology, primarily with oil reserves, these so-called fossil fuels, the contributing of these so-called greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and methane. But my first thing is, why have we developed technology based on this type of engineering when many of us understand that there was an understanding of pulling energy basically right from the sky, and an understanding of atmospheric energy harvesting that seems to have been known through these antique types of civilizations. So one, why are we using this type of technology? Is this the best we can do? And two, although they keep telling me about climate change, it seems to me that although we're continually being threatened with the rise of ocean levels, you can look at many landmarks that have existed for hundreds of years, if not longer, and we see that the sea levels have not risen. But anything more than maybe a few millimeters, where's the sea level rise? What's going on with that? They keep threatening it. And they keep telling us that certain parts of major westernized geography, like cities along the coast, are in danger of being submerged in the very near future. But I don't know. Where's the evidence? Very strange. What I do find consistently is a narrative of human-made global warming, quote unquote global, and a narrative that it's basically your fault. You as a consumer, you who wants to heat your house, wants to get to work, wants to secure a livelihood for your family. It seems to be your fault. So what we need to do is you need to be taxed more. You need to be inconvenienced. You need to tighten your belt, all in the interest of the collective. Again, this collective understanding of impending doom that basically is, at least up till now, seemingly unevidenced. I don't know about you, but this seems to be less about preserving our so-called planet and maybe more about preserving the elite status of a certain ruling class of individuals. In other news, The View hosts give Don Lemon an "I told you so" after firing from X. Didn't you know this was going to end badly? Don Lemon announced this week that his upcoming show, set to air entirely on X, formerly Twitter, was dropped before its premiere, and the hosts of The View aren't shocked at all. In fact, they even gave Lemon a bit of the "I told you so" during his Friday appearance. Quote, Elon Musk has canceled the partnership I had with X, which they announced as part of their public commitment to amplify more diverse voices on their platform. Lemon wrote in a statement Wednesday morning, he informed me of his decision hours after an interview I conducted with him on Friday. All right. So apparently this Don Lemon guy, he was this disgraced CNN anchor who was caught up in some torrid love affair with one of his female co-hosts, who was married at the time, and so was he. Well, apparently Elon Musk canceled his upcoming X show. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, Mr. Don Lemon. I guess we're going to play the race card here. And they're putting in here to amplify more diverse voices on their platform. And by diverse, we mean people of color. Because I'm telling you, his ultra-liberal, ultra-progressive, and ultra-woke narrative is anything other than diverse at this point. Hey, you want a diverse view on X? Give me a show. Or maybe our friend Nachiketa. Why don't you give me a Nacha show on X if you want a diverse voice? Let's see that narrative be played. Let's get Nach and I on there talking about, the real history of this world. But no, we need to lament about Don Lemon being canceled and silencing his diverse voice. Please, folks. Clown show all around. In science news, NASA celebrates SpaceX's Starship's third test flight, but more work needed ahead of Artemis moon missions. SpaceX's third Starship test flight notched several important firsts on the long road to landing astronauts on the moon, NASA officials say, but there's a lot more work to do. Starship flew successfully to space yesterday, March 14th, from SpaceX's Starbase site in South Texas, and reached orbital velocity, among other achievements. NASA especially paid tribute to Starship's propellant transfer demonstration in space, which will be important for future moon missions run by NASA's Artemis program. That said, engineers need to review data in the upcoming weeks to see exactly how well the test flight went. With each test flight, SpaceX attempts increasingly ambitious objectives objectives for Starship to learn as much as possible for future mission systems development. The ability to test key systems and processes allows both NASA and SpaceX to gather crucial data needed for the continued development of Starship HLS. Watson Morgan added, Starship is the HLS vendor tasked by NASA to land astronauts on the moon during Artemis 3, which is now scheduled to launch no sooner than December 26. Okay, this makes zero sense to me, even less sense than their typical space presentation. They can't figure out what to do with this Starship. They can't get it to go in space, apparently, and then come back without, burning up and disintegrating basically on re-entry. Which to me, they seem pretty calm about it, but it kind of seems like a significant problem. If you want to take 4 people to the moon on this apparent Starship and get them back here in one piece, you might want to figure out, how to have it re-enter without burning up. But they don't seem worried about it. Apparently, like they said, this Artemis moon landing planned for September 2026. That's coming pretty darn soon. It's roughly a year and a half away. 2.5 years away. Okay. Are you telling me you're going to have this figured out in 2.5 years? To a point where you're going to be able to confidently send people? This is crazy. This is cuckoo. These starships. Basically, it's like, I guess, a new version of like the shuttle or something. Because it's supposed to be able to be reusable as a single, ship. It also brings to mind the idea that this idea of space travel and these starships, this idea was presented to us not through science first, but through science fiction. Again, in like the mid-1800s, they were talking about ships like these, and then expounded upon in the early 1900s in pop culture and science fiction magazines. Why did they present the technology that was to be used in space, firstly in science fiction? It's almost like you see now with these movies presenting this idea of the human's future, space travel, going into the stars. But the idea that the technology is first presented through media, entertainment. What does that mean? What are they telling us? What are they prepping us for? To me, it's an indication that they're less interested in actual science and more interested in programming us and convincing us of their so-called science. Very strange. All right, ladies and germs, that'll do it for the news, and that'll do it for another episode of Z Show. Great show, everybody. Spirited, lively, as always. And great week. Again, it is Friday, Freya Day, where we honor you, the Norse god Freya, and basically the luminary, the wandering star Venus. So, hail Venus. All right, everybody. Much love. If the fates are willing, we'll do it again next week. I may take some time off in the near future to curate some of my recent material. So Monday's pending. Don't be surprised if we're not live on Monday. For any of my faithful listeners, fear not. We may be taking a brief hiatus so I can secure some of this material. But even so, either way, we will be back at some point if the fates are willing. All right, everybody. Much love. Take care.